My name is Marcin Piatkowski. I come from Mielec. Currently, the business that we run is based in London, so kind of international environment. Um, Currently, however, I'm based in Mielec because we're setting up serial manufacturing site for our product finally, and it's being taken care of in Poland. Um, I'll put this here for now. I've got a quote I want to read aloud to you. I just got it like 10 minutes ago from one of our team members. But yeah, um, this is basically what I want to talk about today. So I was asked to talk about the driver story, how he got funding, how he managed to sell the first bikes, and what was difficult along the way. So yeah, basically, in the very, very first place, I'm going to introduce Driver to you as a company, not only the Driver bike, because we're, you know, all about living in big cities and solving problems cosmopolitans living in big cities have. It's not only about bicycles. Then I'm going to present the whole story, how the Driver bike came about, how we started 3 years ago in a dorm room, actually, in London, how it developed, how we created the first prototypes, got some money, and moved to serial production. I'm going to show you how difficult it was to raise all the money in the very beginning and why it was so difficult and how we managed to overcome this obstacle. And the last thing will be the main takeaway of today and of this presentation. And it's mainly based on Cristiano's presentation from the morning. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to connect with that. So yeah, Driver, engineered beautiful. That's our motto, our ethos of the brand. And I could tell you all about it, but as I said 10 minutes ago, I got an email from the head of marketing of our company. We're basically brainstorming a little bit right now about what Driver is. About what Driver is. That we're trying to find our way, our vision for the company, or maybe just quantify it. And this is what he wrote. I couldn't agree more. Engineer Beautiful is our brand ethos. We believe that product needs to be crafted, created, honed, designed, and engineered to be the best it can for today and tomorrow needs. It's a set of passionate behaviors that have been applied to Driver bike to create the greatest in the market. This Engineered Beautiful ethos, this craft, sits at the center of everything at Driver brand. Our products are the expressions of this belief. So, some of you may have heard of the Driver bike so far, but I just want to stress that we're not a bicycle company. As I said, we're building products and services that help people living in big cities live hassle-free, so to speak. Engineer Beautiful because we like engineering. We make sure that our products are engineered very well, but then you need to wrap it around in something that basically faces the customer, so the customer actually wants to buy it. Oh wow, I didn't expect that. Anyway, to make cycling a mainstream commuting means, it needs to be clean and fun. So this is basically the first problem we're trying to solve. Everyone who has ever lived in a big city like London, Shanghai, New York, or San Francisco, you know how hard it is to commute in those cities. I mean, you have a few options. You can either buy a car, which is not an option. I don't know anyone in central London who has a car. That's the first thing. You can use public transport. Buses are fine, but traffic jams make it impossible to get anywhere actually on time. You've got the underground, the tube in London. Now, the tube is fine if it's not full of people. In summers, the temperature gets up to 35 degrees. A lot of really sweaty people going to the city of London, very unprofessional. So people are looking for something different, for an alternative. Now, they basically ironed out a term called mixed commuting, which basically means that someone who lives in zone 4 or 5 in London needs to get to the underground station, then get to central London, and then from the underground station in central London needs to get to the office. Now, going under the ground is the easy part. Getting to the station is the tricky part, because if you live in like zone 4 or 5, it takes you roughly about half an hour walk to get to the tube station, right? Again, you can take a bus, you can take a car, but it doesn't really make any sense, not only financially, but also in terms of lifestyle. So people tend to buy bicycles. Folding bicycle, you cycle to the station, fold it up, take it with you on the train, and here you go, you're in the city center. The problem is that cycling usually comes with all the lifestyle compromises you need to face. First, you'll sweat. Second, you'll get mud and grease on your clothes. Third, bike theft in big cities is a plague. Like 1 in every 3 bicycles is getting stolen. And the fourth thing that I'm going to come back later is the smart aspect of the bicycle. So We want to make cycling a mainstream commuting means, and want actually people to convince that cycling to work can be feasible and can be hassle-free. Now, this is very briefly what we designed and what we're basically shipping, starting to ship right now, our product. But I'm going to come back into that a bit later. What I want to show you first is our promo video that explains all the features. So I'll just shut up for a second and show you the video. That's a very brief introduction of the Jiver bike. Now, getting into the details of what this is. First of all, as I like to call it, it's not a bicycle. It's a commuting vehicle for non-cyclists. So as I said, all the people who would like to cycle to work, but because of all the lifestyle compromises that I just mentioned, they're not going to. So we solved these problems. First of all, the solution that we have designed is sleek. So what we did, this is really not a bicycle. The only thing it has in common with the bicycle is the handlebar, 2 wheels and pedals, and that's it. Everything else has been redesigned from scratch. We use aerospace manufacturing methods. We use aerospace grade aluminum and steel to make sure this is the lightest and the most durable product you'll ever see. The first thing we did is basically we managed to encapsulate all of the bicycle components inside the frame, which means that A, you need to redesign all of the components, and B, you need to redesign the frame. As you can see, here you can have a proper look at it. The first thing that we're really proud of is the chainless drivetrain. So we designed a drivetrain that is A, mechanical, it's as efficient as a chain, it's encapsulated inside the frame so you're not going to get mud and grease on your clothes. It shouldn't break, and it's maintenance free. Okay, so basically you can enjoy the joy of riding on a bicycle and forget about all the hassles, associated with chain. Second thing, it's electric. As you can see on the video, all you do is push the throttle and off you go. You can go up to 30 kilometers on one charge, 25 kilometers per hour. This is basically a legal requirement. You can go faster, but it's illegal. The third thing is it folds up. So you can fold it up into this position, and the good thing is that once it's folded, you don't need to lift the whole thing like most of the folders. You can just actually wheel it. And the last thing, well, one before the last, it's intelligent. So we've also developed an app that connects with the bike via Bluetooth, shows you all the useful information on the screen. And it's gamified. That's something we're really exploring right now. So basically all this data that we collect from the bicycle, we're trying to make sense of it. So just to give you a brief idea of what we want to do is, someone who doesn't cycle to work right now basically commutes from point A to B under the ground, okay? So to commute to work on a bicycle, they need to choose a path they will follow every day. If they do so, they'll most likely pass by a coffee shop, for example, a Starbucks. Now, if they do, every other time they do so, they'll get a free cappuccino. And the Starbucks gets information about those customers only if they agree to, obviously. So it's a win-win situation. We're basically trying to gamify and collect all the information and basically use it to the advantage of the cyclist. This is what we're doing right now. Well, that's like 3 months from now. We're based in London, obviously. The manufacturing site is being built in Mielec. The product development team is being built in Krakow. And I put Frankfurt on the map because we've got a partner in Frankfurt who hopefully is going to open up a Jiver store next year, which is a Jiver concept store with bicycles and all the stuff that we want to make. And this is basically where our customers come from. So as you can see, the biggest cities, mega cities around the world, all of the continents. The biggest markets are San Francisco, New York, Singapore, and London, obviously, because we're from London. This is one of the very interesting things we're trying to do with the Jiver bike. So because we've got all the information about how our customers cycle around the city, we can predict the traffic. We can basically deliver the traffic data to authorities, local authorities, for example, the Mayor of London or the Mayor of Warsaw, and then based on this information, they can, for example, plan the cycle paths. So they make sure that, where people cycle the most, you have a cycle path and you're basically safe. This is a map of London with all the people commuting to the city center. Yeah, that's it. And as a second thing we're working on right now, nothing official yet, so I'm not going to tell you too much, but just to prove the point that we're not a bicycle company. We're a technology company. We're developing a intelligent clothing line right now as we speak. Now the Jiver story. So it all looks all right. I'm going to tell you how we basically came to where we are right now. Ideation phase. So when I got the idea in the very, very beginning, I was in London. Oh yeah, that's something I wanted to mention first. Doing hardware. There is a reason why there is a word hard in the word hardware. It's because it's really hard. Unlike software, where it's not easy, of course, but there is a lot less elements, components that you need to take care of in software compared to hardware. And this particular project, you need to take care of structural analysis, mechanical design, electric design, electronic design, software development, logistics, manufacturing, IP law, and everything that I haven't mentioned yet. In software, in most of the cases, you don't have all of these challenges. So doing hardware is hard and very capital consuming. And doing connected hardware is even harder. The whole IoT trend, it sounds really cool, but it's hard to do. Yeah, that's where I come from, Mielec. So basically, my story is that for the past 10 years or so, I've been trying to run away from this lovely place as far as I could. Krakow, Warsaw, New York, then London, and I settled in London. Purely because, looking back, I realized I was basically trying to run away from my heritage. So obviously everyone in Mielec is basically knows everything about football and manufacturing planes. And it somehow seemed very unsexy to me. I wanted to be a banker. I wanted to sell stuff and make a lot of money, right? So I moved to London. This is basically a few of the landscapes of Mielec, so nothing really fancy. So this is where I moved to. I moved to London, started studying at UCL, did masters in technology entrepreneurship. During the course, UCL funded another course for me at London Business School, which I graduated from as well. And this is when I got the idea for the Jiver bike. How did I get the idea? Obviously, I saw all the traffic and I just got really pissed off. But that's the way we actually tested the idea. So it evolved. It wasn't like, hey, let's make an electric bicycle that's going to fold, it will be chainless and really beautiful. Okay, it didn't work like that. At very, very first place, we're actually, the objective was to find a vehicle, not an electric vehicle, a vehicle that will make commuting in big cities a lot easier than it is right now. And we basically researched possibly everything. So we looked at scooters, electric scooters, motorbikes, folding motorbikes, cars, bicycles, obviously, and everything segways and those self-balancing wheels. We looked at everything. And then we basically concluded that the only vehicle that actually ticks all the boxes is a bicycle. With a slight twist, it's electric. And the reason for that is people need to be familiar to some extent with the solution you're offering them. If you're offering something that is totally out of this world, and it can be the best product ever, if it's something the customer is unfamiliar with and is not aware of, it's going to be very hard to sell it. So our strategy was, let's create something that the customer is aware of and put a slight twist to it so they can use the advantages of the new product and still not be kind of afraid of using it. So we started here, that's Euston Station in London. We went to Euston Station, decided, yeah, we'll look at electric bicycles, and we were basically interviewing everyone with a folding bicycle in London on that station. And we showed them the first very sketchy design of the Jiver bike and said, look, if you had your folding bike that you have right now and it was electric, what would you say? Would you buy it? And they were like, yeah, whatever. 3 out of 10 people said they would consider buying an electric folding bike. And we thought, hey, that's not much of a market, really. 3 of them say they would. Maybe they're just being, nice to us. Probably 1 will consider and no one will buy. So we thought something's not quite right here. But we were actually sure that the product we're trying to design is good. Just the target market wasn't there. So we went to another place in London and tried to find a different target market. Went to Apple Store with the same design, same group of people, still students at UCL. We took the design with us. We went to Regent Street, the biggest Apple store in Europe. We stood outside this very store and we basically showed the design to everyone who was coming in and out of the Apple store. And we were telling them, this is the new iBike or the new Apple bike. What do you think? It's electric, it's chainless, it folds up, and it's beautiful. What do you think? And they loved it. Then we realized, obviously, it had Apple logo on it. I mean, not physically, but it made us believe that it's not about the product itself, because the product is, to some extent, useful. The problem is in positioning the product in someone's brain, okay? So when people want to think of cycling, they think of sweat, they think of people being killed on roads, they think of problems with bicycle theft and all that stuff. If you go to a different target customer that hasn't considered all of these obstacles yet, they look at it totally differently. So we did the same test the day later with the same product, and we didn't tell anyone it's an Apple product or anything like that. We basically went there, showed them the product, and said, look, we're thinking of doing this. We're a group of students from UCL. What do you think? And they still loved it, which proved that it's about the people you target the product at, not really the product itself. And that's basically what we showed them. That's the first iteration of the design. And I think that was actually 3 years ago already. But I think this was the turning point in the entire company vision and everything else. This is why I say we're not a bicycle company. We're a company solving problems of people living in big cities, all right? That was the pre-UCL phase, the ideation phase, then the UCL phase. Now, you get a cool idea. How do you go about making it happen? And that's the difficult part, because little did I know, manufacturing is expensive and difficult. And you need a lot of money basically to complete the product development and then bring the product to life. So this is what we did. That's the first 6 months or so of our product development. This is public, so this is why I put the numbers on the website. The first kind of funding round of the company 3 years ago. We got some money. The problem was all of the money did not come in one tranche. First we got the £5,000, then we got the £3,000, then £2,000, and they came in like small installments, 3 months one after another. Even the last tranche, the £38,000, it also came in smaller installments. The problem is, when you do such a complex product as a driver bike, you need all the money in one place, in one go, so you can actually complete the product development. In this case, we had to take baby steps, okay? And it made everything really, really difficult. That's the prototyping phase. So we had all this money split in 10 tranches or so, £3,000 each. What can you do with £3,000 in London, really? Pay your rent, and that's pretty much it. So we had to take baby steps in order to remove the risks for our first investors. Obviously, we wanted to design the product. Then we realized that with the money we have, we cannot complete the design. So we thought, hey, let's do something else that would put us basically one step further. So we filed for the design application. You can go to the investor, you can say, hey, we've got a protected design. It doesn't matter if the design doesn't work, it's protected. Then we designed the first prototype of the chainless system that didn't work. Well, it kind of worked, but it didn't. That's the model over there. Then we created some nice renderings. So as I said, a lot of really, really small steps. And then someone at UCL, one of the professors, told me, fake it till you make it. So basically, see what would happen if you actually had the final design, if you had the final product, whether people would actually react to it positively. So what we did, got more money from UCL, about £5,000, and printed a bicycle that didn't work at all, but it looked like the final product, okay? So we 3D printed the main frame. This is basically me assembling the first bike in my garage, my garage, that's a stretch. It was someone else's garage I basically borrowed. I did it in a weekend. This is basically a lot of glue and body filler, and it's made of plastic. It doesn't work. But we managed to make this. We got a model. That's a Calvin Klein model, by the way. We got a model. We went to central London. I got a friend of mine to do the photo shoot, and we did amazing photos. Look, he isn't even sitting on the thing because it will break. But it doesn't matter, because you can set up a website. You can show people what it would look like if it actually happened, and it's enough to get some money from them. It's not a lot of money. You cannot really deliver the product, but you can get £100 from them. If you find 100 of them, that's £10,000. Potentially, that's £2,000 bike. So that's potentially £200,000 or £20,000, £20,000, £200,000. My math is bad. Anyway, £200,000 of potential income to the investors, and that makes them a little bit more excited. Okay, so you have good visuals. They can see it happening, although it's not happening, but you're one step further. More photos of the same thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, another one, St. Pancras Station in London. Yeah, it looks all right, but if you know anything about bicycles, you see it's not a bicycle. I mean, really, yeah, how am I gonna tell you? Anyway, talent acquisition. So we set up the website, we got some orders, cannot remember right now how many, but we got some orders, and then I realized that we will need a lot of money to make it happen. And at that point, we're talking like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of pounds really to get it done. And I also realized that no one's going to give me the money because I was 23. I had no experience, no background in manufacturing, no background in mechanical engineering. I didn't even have a bike. I was a student, basically not a trustworthy person at all to an investor. So what do you do in such case? Okay, you find people who make you believable because they're standing behind you and they believe in you. So the first phase was, I'm not a designer, but I'm going to get someone who can design cool things, and he'll do it for me, and I can say that he did it for me. Okay, so we got a designer from Bentley, a car designer. He sat down, did the design, and that was it. Then I thought, all right, I'll need someone really clever to do the mechanical drivetrain, to basically redesign the drivetrain from scratch. Who makes great drivetrains? Obviously, Ferrari. So I found a guy, James, from Bentley, and Alberto from Ferrari. They sat together, didn't accomplish much, but they got the concept right. They got the first design right. Then they left the company, but that doesn't really matter. Then I thought, okay, to raise the actual money, I will need some heavyweight people behind me. And I thought, what kind of company do I find really inspiring? What kind of company would I like Jiver to be in the future? And I thought it has to be either Tesla Motors or Apple. And I found this gentleman sitting over there. That was at that point at Chorus, but he worked in Tesla before. And I thought, okay, in terms of marketing and strategic marketing, who does the best marketing, the best ads? Obviously, Coca-Cola. They're the best. And then phase 3, I'll come back to that a little bit later. But these are, oh yeah, I'll come back to that as well. These are the people that we got on board. The first two in the very beginning were my co-founders. They were not good co-founders. They were great engineers and great designers, but then I realized that being great at your job and being a co-founder are two separate things. Being a co-founder, an entrepreneur is a mindset, okay? And being a great engineer is a different kind of mindset. And these are not, they very rarely actually come together. So these are the two guys. They founded the company with me, then left. So I was left alone. Then there's Cristiano and Fiona, who act as board advisors and board director. And the last two people, so after we got the money and everything else, we basically had to make it happen. So we got James, who is in charge of launching car makes in Europe. Right now he's launching BMW i-Series. And Ben, who designed a really cool electric motorbike before in his previous job. And how did I did that? Cold calling. Obviously, I was in London, a student, no connections at all in the industry. How do you find the people you need? You basically Google them. And once you Google them, you call them, and you ask for a coffee. You go for one coffee, you make sure you make a good impression. Then you get another coffee and a homework. You do your homework, you pay for the coffee, then you get another one. And if you're really, really lucky, at some point they'll say, hey, you know what, I like you enough to give you some money. Just prove you can make, another bigger step. And that's the way it worked. Cristiano here was one of the first investors that came in. After Cristiano came in, it all started. So we got the entire round in place. Um, yeah, got the money from the investors in London. We did the Cropcube fundraising. Nothing really sexy. I just wanted to put it here because it's one of the phases. So we got the money, and we moved to creating the actual proper prototype of the Javer bike, one that would actually work. With the money I went to the biggest companies in the UK I could think of. So who makes great designs? Who has the best engineers apart from the aerospace industry? Obviously, Williams F1, McLaren, and Lotus. They have the best mechanical engineers. And I went to them, I spoke to them, and they were like, it's not going to happen. You cannot design a chainless drivetrain that's going to work as good as a chain drivetrain. And my favorite was, there is a reason why bicycles have chains, you know? For 150 years, no one has invented anything else. So this cannot really work. Well, they were wrong. So it was a really hard time for us. We had the money and no one who would actually design the damn thing. So I went back home to Poland and I spoke with my dad. I was like, hey, what do you think? I was like, oh, it will be hard. But you're not going to make it? Oh, yeah, of course I'm going to make it. So he sat down and he designed it in 3 months for free, okay? And this is one of my favorite quotes, actually. If something can be done, find someone who doesn't know it, he will do it. I'm not sure actually who said it, but I think it was Einstein or someone like him. And it's very true, because my dad is a great engineer. He didn't know anything about bicycles. He Googled everything, and then he designed the whole thing. Well, the mechanical part. And that's us building the first bike in our garage this time. So that was a big step ahead. That's the first prototype, really working prototype we created. It doesn't look great. There is a lot, we had to improve, but it actually worked. And then you've got your customers that you basically misled a little bit. You took the money from them, and now you can tell them, you know what, we've got a prototype. Why don't you come around and test it? So they came back, they tested it, they gave us more money. Which helped us, to survive a little bit longer. Production setup. So this is what we're doing right now. The whole story I basically described to you took us 3 years. So it looks like it's, fairy tales and all that kind of stuff, but it was really freaking hard. Right now we're in the stage where we're setting up the serial manufacturing site in my hometown. Now, this is something I like to talk a lot. I've got 7 minutes left, all right. And also what Cristiano said before, there is no point in copying Silicon Valley. Why? Because Silicon Valley was not designed to be Silicon Valley. You've got all the circumstances, you've got great climate, you've got Stanford, you've got Berkeley, and it just basically grew that way. You cannot create Silicon Valley in London, you cannot create Silicon Valley in Warsaw or Krakow, you cannot create Silicon Valley in China. Because there are different mindsets, all right? So we have to create our own Silicon Valley that I like to call the Polish hardware valley or the aviation valley. And the funny thing is, we had our valley before the Americans had theirs. We had the thing called Centralny Okręg Przemysłowy many years ago. You can laugh, but it was a really advanced project with a lot of money being invested about 100 years ago. Well, a bit less than that. The thing is that the heritage is still here. The machines, the people who learned their business, in the 30s and 40s and all the generations, the entire southern Poland, the east side of the southern Poland, Mielec, Stalowa Wola, Dębica, they all know how to make planes. I mean, if you know how to make a plane, you know how to make pretty much anything, okay? And we've got the machines. The quality is stunning. I take the parts manufactured in my hometown, I go back to London, and they're like, where did you make it? It cannot be made. I was like, what do you mean it cannot be made? I've got it here. And I made it for like 10 pounds. So it's really unbelievable. What we need to do in Poland is build on our strengths. And our strengths are, as Cristiano said, persistence and the knowledge how to build hardware, okay? Usually hardware made of metal. Now, to our advantage works the fact that the IoT trend is really popular these days. So all you do is make a really nice piece of hardware and put some software in it, and that's it. You've got a running business. Well, not that simple, but anyway, yeah, so we can create our own valley, the aviation valley in Poland. And that's one I like a lot, actually. I wanted to translate it to English, but I didn't. So basically, it's Napoleon saying that there is nothing impossible for my Poles. And that's our manufacturing site in Mielec that we're working on right now. Actually, not this one, but one next to it. That was the first one we actually moved to. That's us painting the first bikes. I put it here because it just looks cool. I mean, Breaking Bad, right? Yeah, and the presentation is called "How do you get from zero to hero or to a trendsetter?" We're not a trendsetter really. We're just kind of getting there. But the funny thing is that although we're still a pretty small company, 24 of people will be next month, but we've got some signs of global impact already. I mean, if you like football, you know the guy in the upper left corner. He's our customer. The CEO of GoDaddy is our customer as well. This gentleman over here is Lord Foster, who's in touch with us. One of the greatest architects in the world, possibly the greatest, based in London. Our customer as well, he actually wanted to develop the bike for us. Then we've got two companies that tried to steal the technology from us at one of the trade shows. And we've got another company that just launched on Kickstarter recently that basically copied the aesthetics of our company from the very beginning till the very end. And I know it because I'm in touch with them. And like a year ago, they asked me, how do you do this? How do you do that? And then they launched a Kickstarter campaign. It looks exactly like ours. I don't mind really. That's for the good, you know. More electric bicycles means more people aware of them. But it's really flattering that although we're a small company, they're already stealing from us. Yeah, and that's the hometown. Yeah, so this is the photo that I showed you in the very beginning when I tried to run away from my hometown. But actually, I made like a full circle in 10 years. And I actually came back very recently. And I look at all of these things in a totally different way. Because you can look at it like, I mean, come on, it's not an airport, is it? It's just really one lane. Then that's the city center in the upper right corner. Nothing sexy, but you can look at it from this way. That's the old town in Mielec. I mean, how cool is that? How many cities in the world can say that Real Madrid played football with the team in that town? That was about 40 years ago, okay? They lost, but it doesn't matter. Real Madrid was in Mielec, a tiny town, 60,000 people, somewhere in Poland that no one has ever heard of. Another thing, the same church. I mean, just a sunset, and it looks already beautiful. And as a story that the media picked up recently, calling me Chłopak z Mielca, the dude from Mielec. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to do basically right now. Just make sure that people, homies in the southern Poland, in the area that used to be the COP, Centralny Okręg Przemysłowy, basically have a chance to start their own businesses because we're not worse than anyone else in the world. We just, you know, we're brought up in different circumstances. Maybe there's not so much capital, but with the Agency for Enterprise Development, there's enough right now. And there's a lot of great people with great ideas. We're manufacturing planes, we're manufacturing cars, drones for the American Army. We're doing Black Hawks for the American Army as well. We know how to make pretty much anything. So yeah, that's the full story for me. And I just realized very recently that doing a startup is something more than bringing a product to life and you know, making a bit of money on side and, you know, just fulfilling your dreams. It's basically you learn your best and your worst during the journey. You learn how low you can get, and you can learn how high you can get, and how you react in both of these situations. So what is really important for me is that I learned who I am during this journey. I know I'm not a big city guy. I enjoy being in big cities, but deep down in my heart, I'm you know, a guy from Mielec, a dude from Mielec, and I think it was very important to me to understand who I really am, and this is what my entrepreneurship journey is really, you know, dear to me, and you know, I basically managed to discover who I am or what I want to do. Yeah, partly is bicycles. So understand yourself, know yourself, and be yourself, and that's the bottom line. Thank you.